Hi, I'm Kris Marsh, consultant, coach, and author of the Personal Brand Playbook. And today I want to talk to you about something really important. If you are an entrepreneur, I want to talk to you about how to charge what you are worth and get it every time. So if you have trouble charging what you know the value of your time and services are, or if you just don't know what to charge, or if you do, but you have trouble resisting negotiating with clients and ultimately charging less, then stay tuned because this video is for you. I have an easy 3-step process that you can use, and there'll be a worksheet at the end that you can download to help work yourself through it. So I want to start by giving you a really quick update or lesson in the difference between what's called cost plus pricing and value-based pricing. When a business is employing cost plus pricing, it's literally them figuring out how much it costs them to create something, a widget, or to deliver something, a service, and then adding on an extra percentage from there to create a profit margin. Now, when we talk about value-based pricing, which is what I encourage all of my clients to do, you're charging according to the value that you are delivering to the market. So in a lot of cases as entrepreneurs, we are providing services and we're coaching and we're consulting and we're strategizing and delivering solutions for people. We're delivering a very high level of value when we do that. We're helping people overcome barriers and solve problems, and we're allowing them to make more money. And so we need to understand the value of what we are delivering and charge accordingly. But that's hard for people. So let's start with the idea of just, first of all, understanding how much it costs you to work with a client for 1 hour. And again, I encourage you to employ value-based pricing and not to charge according to just the amount of time that you're spending with people. But we have to start by at least having an understanding of how much it's costing you to do the work. So I worked with a client recently, and she shared with me that she was charging $50 an hour for the time that she spends with people. Now, first of all, I will say there's not much that you can get for $50 an hour. And so I encouraged her to rethink that, and we talked through the idea of value-based pricing. And also, let me say, in the 5 years that I've been consulting privately, I have never had to say to a client that they are charging more than what they should. It's always the opposite of that. When people start out, they're always afraid to charge what they're worth. And so one of the first things that I say to almost every client is, you're not charging enough for the value that you are delivering. So in this case, I wanted to help her really understand how much of her time that 1 hour engagement was costing her. And so here's the first step in the 3-step process. I want you to think about an hour of your time and whether that is delivering truly an hour of consulting or coaching, or if it's part of a project that you've estimated your time on. And I want you to consider how much time is really involved in delivering that 1 hour of service. So in the case of my client, she was going off site and meeting the clients in person, but this applies even if you're talking to people on the phone. Think about it. If you are going to provide a really meaningful 1 hour engagement with a client, you are going to have time that's involved in preparing for that meeting so that you are ready and you can deliver insight. You're going to have time that's involved in either physically traveling someplace to meet them or just mentally shifting gears and preparing for the call that you're going to have. After you're done with that hour-long engagement, which again often runs over an hour, you're going to have time physically traveling back to your office, or again, mentally shifting gears to be able to start working on another client's work or another engagement. And as coaches and consultants, we're also spending time making notes and debriefing afterwards to provide some level of follow-up to the client. So in this case, when my client and I worked through The typical process that's involved from the very beginning to the end of a 1-hour engagement for her, what we discovered was that 1-hour block was really costing her at least 4 and probably 5 hours of time by the time it was all said and done. So now all of a sudden, if you are thinking that you're happy with making $50 an hour, you're probably making $10 to $12 an hour because you have not accounted for all of the time on the front end and the back end of that engagement. Okay, so that's really important for you to consider. Now, if you really do want to be charging $250 an hour and you have 5 hours into providing a really meaningful and valuable experience for a client that in their world is a 1-hour block, then that means that the value of that time is $250. And so that's a process that you need to go through first as step 1 is really understanding how much that hour is costing you. Now, step 2 is to consider the value that you are really delivering. And here's where I see people have blocks and not really realize in the beginning this part as well. So this is where value-based pricing comes in. What you are delivering is a far greater value than just that hour of your time that you're spending, whether you are selling that as a consulting and coaching block, or if it's time that you're putting into a project that you've estimated out a project cost on based on your time. What you need to understand is the value that you are really delivering is not just your time, but also all of those years of experience that you have building up that knowledge base that's now valuable to your clients and is going to help them break through barriers, get answers, move forward, and make a lot more money. So it's that time that you've spent gaining that experience. It's the education that you have, if that's applicable to what you do. And it's your talent. So here's another place that I hear entrepreneurs justify charging less. They'll say, well, I don't mind because I really love it or it's easy for me to do. Here's the thing. It should feel easy. If you're doing the type of work that is really your true purpose, your calling, your talent, it needs to feel easy to you because it's truly what you're gifted at. That doesn't mean that it's quick and easy for other people. If it were quick and easy for other people, they would do it themselves. And you can bet that as you are coaching and consulting and you're providing them with that value, they're translating that into the value that they are ultimately charging their customers. And you need to make sure that you're sharing in that value accordingly. Okay, so now here's step 3. You might be wondering, okay, so I understand now what it costs me to provide this time or this service. I understand the value that I need to add, but are people going to be willing to pay for it? The answer is your ideal clients are going to be willing to pay for it. And there are a lot of different ways that you define who your ideal client is, and I provided some ideas for you in the worksheet that you're going to download after the video. But 2 key factors that I see people leave out, in addition to the demographic of how old are my target clients? What are the problems that they need to solve? Are they male? Are they female? Where do they hang out? All of that stuff is critical. But what is equally important is understanding what segment then of that market already understands the value of what I deliver. They want it and they are willing and able to pay for it. And those are the ideal client pieces of criteria that I often see left out. Now, sometimes I hear people say, well, I feel bad because I want to be able to provide this value to everyone, and that's great. What that means is that you need to consider having a tiered level of offers, perhaps, if that's really what you want to do. You're not going to be able to serve everyone, though, so figure out who those ideal clients are, target those. That doesn't mean that you can't have free content that's available, just like this video series, or books or programs, workshops that are less expensive tiered offers that people can buy into until they're ready for your full offer. So consider that as well. Now, I told you that there were 3 steps, but I've actually thought of a 4th step that I want to include, and that is not negotiating or allowing other people to negotiate away your true value. This happens to me on a regular basis. It happens to every coach and consultant, and the key is to be prepared for it. You're asked to provide a proposal. You provide the proposal, you go and you have a conversation with the prospect, and they say to you, that's higher than the budget that we have, so instead of $5,000, can you do it for $3,000? Now, you need to really be working from a place of standing firm in knowing and owning your value, but also being prepared for those questions, frankly. So my advice is never discount your offer. However, be prepared to make an alternate offer that might meet their budget if that's a possibility. So a specific example of this is last year I was contacted by a large nonprofit organization and they wanted me to come in and do a full day workshop. I provided them with a proposal. They came back and they said, this is above our budget. Our budget is $1,000 less. Can you do it for this price? Because that's always what they're going to ask, right? They want the full offer for a lower price. Be prepared to answer that question and know going into that conversation what you can offer as a buy up or a buy down offer. And what I mean by a buy down offer is I was able to, because I had thought it through ahead of time and I anticipated the question, I was able to tell them, I cannot offer you the full program for that price, but here's what I can do in your budget. And then I peeled back some of the deliverables. We went from a full day workshop to a half day workshop, and we shortened the follow-up with the participants from 6 weeks back down to 4 weeks so that it worked within their budget. It was a win-win. They were happy. I felt good about it. And that was a great success story. Now, sometimes even better, you will provide a proposal and then you will have a client say, this looks fantastic. What could you do if we doubled the budget for this? My advice is be prepared for those buy up scenarios as well. And so when I go into a proposal review, I'm ready for that as well. And I don't have a full proposal ready for a buy up option, but I'm at least prepared to give them some ideas immediately of things that we could do that would add even more value if we had a larger budget. So my advice to you is download the worksheet. It's in the link below. Work through those 4 steps that I've given you and be prepared to understand the value that you deliver, own it, and be ready to charge for it and get it every single time.